It's my pleasure to welcome Tom Coley to Scrubbing In podcast this morning. Tom, thank you so much for joining us.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Well, and Tom, as we were talking off air when we were getting set up just now, I was impressed that when I asked you, how long you've been, involved in perfusion, you said 1980. So I had to do the quick math. 38 years. I mean, you've seen a lot of changes probably in those 38 years with perfusion.
I have. I've seen a lot of changes in perfusion and in healthcare. I actually started in healthcare prior to that. So my history in healthcare goes back to 1972. So another 8 years on that in cardiac surgery as an assistant.
Right.
And then got into the perfusion business in 1980. Joined this company in 1986 and its predecessor, and have been through all those changes of the different name changes and the buying different companies, spinning off, selling, and I've seen all the different changes in ownership that we've had throughout this company.
That's amazing. 32 years basically in the same company. I mean, does that happen to anybody of the younger generations anymore?
Younger generation, not at all. Not at all. I think they start looking for a new job the day they start. So it's totally different. It's totally different.
Well, what a testimony to your passion, not only for the company and for the people that you work with, but for a passion for working in a cardiac environment. Yes,
it's been a good run, and I've seen a lot over the years, good and bad. What I've said, I've been talking to folks lately when they ask how long I've been here. I say I've been with the company for 32 years, but I've been with this company for only about 4 or 5, because this company changed back when Mel Hall came on as our CEO and when Dr. Weinstein came in as our chief medical officer and then now our CEO. Totally different company than it was prior to them coming on board. And, they've become employee focused. So they're big focus on the associates, associate engagement, and then a big focus on quality.
And don't you think that probably mirrors some of the changes that are going on in healthcare in general, how now most hospital and health systems have realized that they have really got to become patient focused. They've got to become employee focused.
Oh yes, for sure. I think being the employer of choice, especially today. Right now we're in a perfusion shortage, which over the years we've seen that pendulum swing back and forth. I've never seen it as bad as it is today. The 1980s, late 80s was probably the next worst perfusion shortage that we had, where you had a number of people that were retiring from perfusion. So people would retire, and we weren't placing them fast enough with new graduates. The schools just weren't putting out as many people.
Walk us through, why have we had these peaks and valleys when it comes to perfusionists and perfusion staffing, and then how that relates to the current shortage that we have?
Well, part of it is generational. The first ever cardiopulmonary bypass successful one was in 1953. So that was the first generation of perfusionists, been in the late 50s. My chief, when I first started in 1980, had done her first case in 1957. So she was one of the early perfusionists. That generation started retiring in the mid-80s or late 80s. They were not being replaced fast enough by the schools. There weren't enough schools putting people out. So the shift to a shortage happened. We had more people leaving the profession than coming in, and it was because that generation was starting to retire. Now we're in that next part of the baby boomers. The baby boomers, which is the largest group of perfusionists, are all not entering retirement age. So we have a lot of folks retiring, and the schools have closed. At one point there were well over 30, almost 40 schools. Right now there's only 16. So there's fewer schools, they're putting out fewer students, and we have more people retiring or leaving the profession.
It's funny, when you were coming into the studio this morning, I was just finishing up a tour with a local university representative, because we're always trying to engage universities to try to figure out how can we help start. We sponsored the school at Thomas Jefferson,
yes. Mm-hmm.
But we really, we've got to figure out how to do 2 or 3 more at least. And so one of the things that's interesting is I was walking this person around for the tour, they're just not even aware really of perfusion. And so we're having to educate this next generation of employees, not employees, but university administrators, on what that need is around perfusion.
And that's a lot of the feedback we get. We go around to all the current schools and we talk to the students and trying to recruit for joining SpecialtyCare. And one of the things we hear almost consistently is nobody knows what perfusion is. that if they'd have known earlier what it was, they may have gotten into it sooner. So I think we have to move beyond the schools and back up into the colleges or the technical schools and start recruiting at an earlier, or at least educating, if not recruiting. We need to educate the folks as to what perfusion is.
Yeah, because you don't have to have a 4-year nursing degree to decide that you want to explore perfusion.
You do not. You have to have a degree in order to get into one of the perfusion schools, but it can be a degree in any of the
it can
sciences.
be chemistry, it can be biology.
Exactly, chemistry, biology, any of the sciences you can have the degree in order to get into one of the schools. So it's, but people don't know that it's available. It's a very small profession. There's only a little over 4,000 certified perfusionists in the country. So it's not a lot of folks out there. So it's a limited pool to start with. So the more we could get interested in and into the schools and get the schools to be starting putting more out. And as you said, if we could start associating with the schools and helping build that up, that would be great.
One of the things that I learned when I came into specialty care as a reason why you would want to work with a company like SpecialtyCare as a perfusionist is that we're in 42 states. So if you want an opportunity that might be outside your geographic area, well, SpecialtyCare, is going to have opportunities around the country. If you want to travel, there's opportunities there. If you want to get into leadership, could you share with our audience, what your personal thoughts are on why you would want to be a perfusionist working for a company like SpecialtyCare?
Well, I think, as you just said, SpecialtyCare offers much more opportunity than anyone else out there. Opportunity for advancement. There are a number of our region presidents, vice presidents of business development that started out as staff perfusionists and have worked their way through into a management role and then eventually into a senior management role. We've got the opportunity for travel. I manage our travel team. We call it the SWAT team. And it's the group of very experienced perfusionists who I can send anywhere, and they can go in and fill in for us or to start new programs. And they get to travel and see other places, other techniques, every different ways of doing things. We also have a group of per diem or regional travelers that have that same opportunity to do it within a smaller geography area. So
I just was in a meeting yesterday, and Sam brought up the SWAT team, and I'd heard about it. I really did not know a lot about it. So these are folks on the SWAT team. When you join that you could be sent out like on a moment's notice or a couple of days. Now, how does that work?
It could be on a moment's notice, but more often than not, it's scheduled for short term, but not daily. It's 3 weeks at a time, 3 months at a time. So it's more of an extended assignment.
And they're going to relieve a current account who may have somebody going out on maternity leave or going on vacation or sick leave.
Primary responsibility is to staff our new accounts until we get the recruiting done and hire full-time staff. If they're not doing that, then they're supplementing our existing accounts where we have a shortage for someone has resigned or someone's out on a medical leave, that we have a long-term or mid-term opening that we haven't recruited for yet. We haven't filled it. And so until we fill that position, the SWAT team goes in.
I was doing a tour this morning when I was showing the university around of our simulated operating room, which we have fully set up here in Nashville. What role does that SimOR play to our team of perfusionists?
It's going to start playing a much bigger role. We are actually getting a perfusion simulator that we will be putting in there that we'll be able to use for training purposes, for evaluation purposes, for ECMO, which is the long-term perfusion, for training ECMO specialists as well. That we'll be doing with that with the SimOR. We've got every piece of equipment that's there for perfusion that we can train folks on. We can bring them in and they can see it, they can do it. It's also for education. We can use that for education. I can tell you, the operating room that we have downstairs is bigger and nicer than almost every operating room I've ever worked in. So it's a very well done operating room.
So we're going to spoil.
We're going to spoil. Yeah, they're going to come in there and see it, and then they're going to go operate in something smaller and where they're much more tighter quarters. But it's a very, very well done operating room.
What are the annual requirements for a perfusionist? Do they have to go and get CEUs or CMEs each year?
Yes, they do. So once you've graduated from school, and right now you have to graduate from an accredited school in order to become certified. And that's been the rule since the 1981. Prior to 1981, there were a lot of perfusionists who learned on the job because there weren't schools. There just weren't any schools out there. Now, since 1981, you have to graduate from an accredited school. So once you've graduated, every year you have to do a minimum of caseload. And it's a minimum of 40 cases that you have to do every year. And then every 3 years, you have to certify with continuing education. So you have to have a set number of continuing education units, CEUs, in order to certify. One of the advantages of specialty care is we offer reimbursement for continuing education that many other places don't do. So we offer a $1,500 reimbursement per year, which can be rolled over 3 years, so they can go $4,500 to go to a meeting to get those points.
And what is the governing body for perfusionists?
It's the ABCP, the American Board of Cardiovascular Perfusion, and they oversee the certification, and it's a two-part test for certification. There's a scientific part of the test, and then there's a more of an operational type test of it. Used to be an oral test, which they've replaced now with the second part of the test. But then they also oversee the recertification.
When you think back to your time, so you had about 8 years before you decided to get into perfusion. What was it back then? I guess it was in the mid '70s. And what inspired you to say, I want to kind of switch up and I want to learn operating this heart-lung machine?
For me, it was being in the right place at the right time. I was already a surgical assistant, which again was the same thing. I was in the right place at the right time. I had a surgeon whose assistant had quit, and he asked me if I wanted to learn how to be his assistant, which I took that opportunity up. So then when we moved into Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, I would move there as a surgical assistant or a scrub nurse in the operating room on the heart team. And the surgeons there, their perfusionist helped surgically assist at the table. So when they found out that I already had that experience and they had an opening for a perfusionist, it opened up the position. So it wasn't something that I actually went looking for. It just happened to have the opportunity, and as soon as I saw the opportunity, I grabbed it. So
where do you see the heart-lung machines? It seems with ECMO that there's going to be this process of miniaturization that's going to start impacting the heart-lung machines. Are you already seeing that?
We're seeing it somewhat. ECMO technology in ECMO has really advanced over the past years. Before the H1N1 crisis from a few years ago, being put on ECMO was last minute or last ditch efforts. It was, if you were put on ECMO, things were really bad, and you more than likely didn't come off ECMO, at least for adult ECMO. When we had the H1N1 crisis with a lot of people having respiratory failure, we had to put them on ECMO, and most were young, healthy individuals, so they survived the ECMO, and we learned a lot through that and learned a lot on technology and techniques. So now ECMO has a very good survival rate. We're getting better results with ECMO, which means we're getting more and more patients put on ECMO. We do more ECMOs than anyone else in the country. We did over 800 ECMOs last year and are on target to do at least that, if not more, again this year. So we do a very large number of ECMOs.
Excellent, excellent. Well, Tom, I just want to thank you so much for coming on Scrubbing In and sharing your story and helping educate, our audience around perfusion and ECMO. And I hope you'll come back and be our guest again.
Well, thank you. I'll be back anytime you'd like.
All right. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Lee.
All right.